What's going on, guys? We are live here, hopping on, and what is happening here on TikTok? I'm just trying to get set up here on TikTok, and then we'll head out here. Something is going crazy wrong. I'm not quite sure what it is. So it's a little weird. If you're joining me on Facebook or YouTube, drop a comment and say what's up. Throw your name in the comments or click the link above to say that you are here. I still don't know what's going on with my live on TikTok. Something is weirdly wrong here. So, yeah, I don't know. What in the heck is going on? Good to see you. I don't know who you are, Facebook user. You have to click the link above this post to see your name, or you need to throw your name in the chat, or I don't know who you are. It's just a limitation of the software that I use. So I'd like to know who I'm talking with. Do not understand what's happening with that. We'll get back to that here in a second. So, if you do me a favor, if you've listened to the podcast that dropped today on what is your brand promise, drop a one in the chat. Drop a one in the chat if you listen to that podcast that I dropped today. I want to know because if you didn't listen to it, then this is like the companion training that goes along with that podcast. So one of you did. I don't know who that is. One of you dropped a one, and I appreciate that. So we are going to be talking about that. So if you guys have any questions, by the way, if you have any questions, if you're watching this live, do me a favor. Also, drop a live in the chat so I know you're watching it live. Hashtag live. Or if you're watching this replay, throw a hashtag replay or just live or replay. It's fine. And that will allow me to know what you're watching. I cannot see you. Whoever says, "Can you see me?" I mean, I can see your post, but I don't see your name. You have to click on the name above, the link above this post on Facebook to allow the software to see your name. Otherwise, I won't know who. Now, Philip just said live. Good to see you, Philip. He clicked on it. Now I know who he is. Just I can't see your name. There's a link. There should be a link right above this or below it. I don't know if you're on mobile or desktop that allows you to allow me to see your name. Josh is live. Okay, cool. I cannot see you, Facebook user. This is what shows up on my screen. See how it says Facebook user. Can you see me? That means I can see you, but I don't know your name. Whereas like Josh here, Mr. Josh has accepted the link. So that's where we're at with that. So if you have questions, throw them in the comments. I want to make sure I'm answering. We're talking about your brand promise. If you didn't listen to the podcast, you probably won't know exactly what we're talking about. If you did, you will know what we're talking about. So the brand promise is, in a nutshell, it is what your brand is promising to your clients through the experience and through the quality of the work that you do. But there's a lot more to that than just those things. That's the easy way of doing it. Let me try going live one more time on TikTok here, guys, while we're because I'm trying to get this. It wasn't working a while ago. Couldn't get the camera to work, and it's still not working. Okay. Well, unfortunately, they just don't. They miss out today, so I don't know what's going on. All right. So frustrating. Okay. So as far as the brand promise goes, who is your clientele, right? Who are you going after? That's the main thing. Who are you going after and what do they want? And the closer you can match up who your clientele is to what they want, the higher probability you will have of landing them as a client. And so the brand promise is easier to describe with an example. So, for example, Starbucks. Whether you like Starbucks or not does not matter. Starbucks has done an exceptional job of creating a promise with their brand that if you go to any Starbucks in the world, does not matter where it's at, anywhere in the world, and you go in and order a specific coffee, it will be the same coffee no matter where it's at. And so the main theme of your brand promise is consistency. How consistent is your processes and your experience throughout your business for your customers? And so, like I said, with Starbucks, it doesn't matter where you go, it's the same. Starbucks has done a phenomenal job of creating consistency in their business. And for most of us, consistency is done using processes and SOPs, checklists, things like that. Right. So, whenever we hire someone new into our business, the first thing we always want to do is we train them up in, how we do things. Yeah, you may be a carpenter and you may have experience doing carpentry, but this is how we do things at our business. This is our values and what we stand for, right? And so we train them up to basically create like a mini me, a mini version of ourselves, or a mini version of what we believe. This is also important as to who you hire, because if you hire people that don't have the same vision or the same ideas or values or morals that you do, then they will cause conflict in your brand promise. So, for example, on that, if you are, let's say you're a religious person and you're a Christian and you want to have those values in your business, which is your business to do whatever you want, but then you go hire someone who does not share those same values. Maybe they actually have the opposite value of you, and then they're on the job site talking to your clients, and the clients hired your company because you have those core values and those are important to that client. And then your employee's on the job site and he's doing things, acting in a way, saying things that don't align with the values of your company, which is an extension of you, then that does not create consistency along with your brand promise. See, if they hired you because of the values that you project through your branding and through your website and all of the interactions, if they don't align with yours, then that is not a consistent promise throughout the whole process. If that's making sense, drop a 2 in the comments for me. If you're following along so far, if I haven't lost you, drop a 2 in the comments while I get a drink. Because we're going to keep building on this and it's going to mess up if you're not following along. I got 1, 2. John, thanks, John. So only one person is understanding. If you're completely lost, drop a 3 in the chat. That way I'll know that you're completely lost and I need to circle back a little bit. That helps me to understand where we're at. So I don't want to lose anybody. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Okay, I don't see any 3s. I got a few 2s coming in, no 3s. Okay, we're good. So that's your consistency, right? Maybe you're a patriot. Maybe your business is focused around being patriotic. Red, white, and blue stuff, supporting veterans, first responders, and that's great. And then you hire somebody and they don't have those same values, and then the same thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if they're out there bad mouthing cops, or veterans or whatever, then that's not going to align with the promise. In my podcast, I said, going back to Starbucks, if I were to go to Main Street Starbucks and order a white mocha, which is my favorite drink, don't judge, and then I go to First Avenue Starbucks and I get the drink and it tastes totally different. Well, I'm like, that's weird. This doesn't taste anything like the one on Main Street, which is where I went the first time that I went to the Main Street one, my first experience, and I got a drink and I loved it. And so I wanted to recreate that experience. And I go to First Avenue, it's different. It's not the same drink. Well, maybe that was just a fluke. Maybe it was a new barista. And then I go to the one on the highway there, and I get a drink again, same drink, and it's totally different. All 3 times that I got that same drink, it tastes totally different. I'm not going to keep going to buy that drink anymore, or I'm not going to keep going to get to that restaurant. I may go back to the Main Street one because that's where I got the first one, and I may drink that. And if it's the same as the first time I got it, then I'm like, okay, so I guess only this location makes it the way that I like. Now I can't go to the other locations because they don't make it the same way, or maybe there's some disconnect there. That's just an illustration of what the promise is. The promise is that if I get this, I'm going to get the exact same flavor and taste and experience everywhere I go. And so if your customers, if someone's calling you and the first time they call you, you answer the phone like on the second ring, and they have a pleasant experience, and then maybe you say, hey, show us some pictures so we can look at your job, and we'll schedule another job in a few days. I'll call you back in a few days, or whatever it might be. And then you don't call them back when you say you're going to, or you don't do what you say you're going to. The first experience of you answering the phone, within 2 rings is a great experience. But the second time they talk to you, you don't call them back, or it takes too long, or you don't answer it. That's a little bit of a hiccup in that promise, that experience. And then the next time I talk to you, you say, yeah, I'll get you an estimate tomorrow. And then you don't do that. Then you're breaking your brand promise to your clients. Or if you're doing a job for somebody and the neighbor comes over and says, hey, how is your experience with so-and-so company? And they go, it's great. They've been phenomenal since day one. They answered the phone. They came out. Everything's great. Highly recommend them. Awesome. That guy goes and he calls you the next day, and you don't answer the phone. You don't call him back for 4 days. Or if you do, it's a long time before you go out there, or you don't communicate effectively, or you don't get in the estimate on time. That does not align with the first person's experience. And so the guy may call his neighbor and say, hey, I thought you said this Brad dude was actually pretty good. He is. We had a great experience with him. Well, that's not the experience that I've had so far. He hasn't called me back yet, and this and that and that. And then the customer is kind of feeling bad, like, man, I hope I didn't. He doesn't have, I hope he doesn't turn out bad for him. And then he starts to feel bad. And then there's some inconsistencies there. And so he may not recommend you anymore, even though you did a good job for him. Now that there's some feedback that there's an inconsistency, he's going to be more reluctant to want to recommend you to someone else. And so the whole thing of your brand promise is that this is the experience. This is the promise. If you hire me, I promise you're going to have this type of experience in quality throughout the whole process. And if you don't stand up to that each time, then you're breaking your brand promise. And that is where you create inconsistency in your branding. You may have some people that are raving fans, and you have some people that hate your guts because there's not consistency. If you have 25 people that love you, and then you have one that says, oh, that person, they're terrible. Well, the 25 other good ones kind of outshadow that one, because maybe that was a one-off experience. Maybe that person was a Karen. Maybe that person just had a bad day, or, this doesn't treats people, doesn't like contractors for whatever reason. Like, that can be a justifiable exception because the other 25 good ones are there. But if you have, 2 good ones and then 2 bad ones and then 1 good one and 3 bad ones, and And when I say good and bad, I mean experience, like the consistency of the experience. It doesn't have to be like you did bad work. I mean bad like you didn't call them back for 3 days after you said that you would call them back. That's a bad experience. So if you're promising people stuff, like actually promising them, hey, I'll have an estimate for you by the end of the day tomorrow, you better have that estimate done. I don't care what excuses you have. You better have that estimate done tomorrow. If you're not sure, you better give yourself more leeway in your time frame. Don't say I'll have it to you tomorrow morning if you know there's a 37% chance that you're not going to have it to them by tomorrow morning, right? It's not a suggestion. See, what we do wrong as contractors is a lot of times we speak in generalities. Like we give them a what we call an area target in the military. You have a precision target and you have an area target. Precision target would be like right if I'm shooting a person. An area target might be there's a tank in the open and I'm gonna shoot some M203s or some grenades or something. It's gonna land within the area. I'm not specifically targeting. So whenever we tell people, hey, I'll get you an estimate by tomorrow, what we really mean is I'll get it to you by tomorrow or within 2 days. The customer hears, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow, I promise you. And if I don't, then that means I'm not interested in your work. That's what the customer hears whenever you don't deliver that. So if there's any inconsistency in that, hey, I'll have you the estimate by Wednesday morning, and then Tuesday evening, you're running behind and you know you're not going to get to it. You need to send them a text, call, email, whatever. Hey, John, I know I told you Wednesday morning. I ran into a couple problems. It's probably going to be Wednesday afternoon or possibly Thursday morning. Is that okay? And most people will be like, yeah, that's fine. I understand. No hurry. But if you don't at least add that extra step in there, you just broke your promise. You broke the experience promise. In other words, the brand promise. And so there's multiple layers to this promise, the brand promise. It's very difficult, guys, in construction to have consistent brand promise, consistent experience throughout because there's so many moving parts. And this is why if you don't have processes in place, if you don't have SOPs in place, this is where you get inconsistent results. This is where you start to have things that happen on a regular basis and your hair's on fire and you're trying to put them out because you haven't done the pre-work. You haven't done the the processes to make sure that you have the same outcome. If you watched my Get Off the Tools training that I put on a couple of weeks ago, if you haven't seen that, by the way, throw in the comments and I can send you a link to that. I have the replay available. But if you were on that, or if you saw the replay, I shared on there the perfect service call that I put together. It's just a worksheet that I called the perfect service call, and it was a step by step of what I would consider to be the perfect service call. Step one is you need to call the client, call or text the client, and let them know when you're on your way. Like, hey, I'm on my way. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Hey, I'm on my way. We're running 5 minutes behind. That was the number one step. The reason why I did that, I created that worksheet, is because I want a consistent experience. You can, this is like, some of the stuff that I talk about is so easy. Like it's actually really easy to stand out, to be the purple cow in construction, because most contractors don't do these things. It's so easy. Something as easy as telling them that you're on the way and showing up on time or a few minutes early sets the tone for everything, right? And so for a lot of contractors, it's like, hey, I'll be out there at 5 o'clock. Again, that's a area target. I'll be out there at 5 or somewhere around 5, maybe 5:10, 5:15, 5:30. Hey, I was in traffic, that's out of my hands. I can't help the traffic. Well, you can help calling them, hey, I'm running behind. If I was going to be 1 minute late to an appointment, I would call them. Chris, just want to let you know I'm probably going to be 1 or 2 minutes late. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's no big deal. I didn't call them 5 minutes after I was supposed to be there. Oh, hey, sorry guys, I got in traffic. It's probably going to be another 30 minutes before I got there. No, I was calling them before I got there, letting them know that I was running late. That is the difference between being exceptional business and then being mediocre. That's one little difference. And it's easy to not do those things. Keep this in mind. There's a book that I read one time called The Slight Edge. Now, it's actually not in my recommended reading list that I put out because it's I could put it on there, but it's not. It's a real short read. It's called The Slight Edge. It's a small book. But there's one thing in there that I remember from that book that always stood out to me, and that's this. Things that in life that are easy to do, like call a customer on your way, things that are easy to do are even easier not to do them. So it's the easiest thing to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm running 5 minutes late. It takes 30 seconds and it's so freaking easy to do, but it's easier not to do that. And that's where a lot of us get caught. We get caught and bite because it's easier not to do it. And so when you're talking about your brand promise, you have to look at it from a start to finish. And there could be 27 steps from the very first contact until the last invoice is paid. There may be 27 different steps in your process. And I don't mean like the production steps. I mean like their sales process, the estimating process, the invoicing process, all of that, right? There may be 27 different steps from start to finish. And if you nail 23 out of the 27 perfectly, you're going to have a good experience. Like the customer's having a pretty good experience. They're not necessarily going to get hung up on 1 or 5 little things that don't go perfect. But if you have 27 steps and you only nail 10 of them, then you're going to have some inconsistencies that your customers are going to feel, and they're not going to be happy about it. And so when I see contractors in other Facebook groups that post and they say, hey, I just got done with the job and now my customer refuses to pay me. And people start asking questions like, well, what happened? What do you mean? What's going on? Well, I told them that, I sent them to my website because our hourly rate is on the website and they signed the contract and now they're refusing to pay because they said we spent too many hours on the job. And I see that and I'm like, that is 1,000,000% your fault as the contractor because you didn't set the expectations, you didn't control the experience from start to finish, and you sent somebody to your website and expected them to like read a 3-page clause contract that somewhere in section 27 subset B it gives the hourly rate that you charge, and then you say, well, you signed the contract, that's on you. That is you being an absolute shitty contractor and businessman. I'm not afraid to say that because that's true. If you hide behind your contracts, that makes you a crappy businessman. Most people don't even need contracts because if you actually set the expectation and you communicate effectively with your clients and you have the good experience, you create the brand promise of this is what we're going to do, then 99 out of 100 times you won't even need the contract. You won't even need clauses in your contract. That is just there for the 1% that actually are going to be a terror no matter what you do. No matter if you did the exact perfect job, you couldn't have done it any more perfect. They're still going to complain. That's what your contract's for. So whenever I talk to contractors and they say, hey, what's some good clauses that you can put in? And I want to do a non-compete clause for my employees. And I want to have this and all these disclaimers and disclaimer. And I'm like, why? Are you just planning on not doing a good job? Are you planning on not pre-qualifying your clients? Are you planning on not living up to your expectation or to your brand promise? Because that's really the only reason you would need clauses and have contracts. I've done over 2,500 jobs. I've completed over 2,500 jobs. And I don't know the exact number, But most of those jobs I didn't even have a contract for. Like, probably, if I had to guess, I mean, like a legitimate contract that you sign and everything, about 75% of those jobs I never had a contract for. Now, I'm not suggesting that you don't have a contract. This is just one area where I'm kind of like saying, don't be like me. Don't do what I did. But I'm just telling you, I didn't have contracts most of the time because I understand customer service and how to take care of people and create promise and create an experience. That's never been an issue of mine, ever. So whenever you're creating your brand promise, it's very, very helpful if you understand what your target demographic is. So just because the phone rings does not mean that that is your client. Just because someone calls you, they've gone to your website, someone recommended you, they saw a Facebook post, it doesn't matter what it is. Just because your phone rings with a client does not mean that that is your client. You can have people that aren't your clients get into your lead funnel, get into your sales funnel. That happens all the time. Even though I try to do a really good job of pre-qualifying people with my website and my forms and stuff, there's still going to be people that sneak in that'll never be my client, and that's okay. I just pre-qualify them through the process. The further along in the process they go, the more pre-qualified they are, right? So they usually, when we get to the discovery call and we give them the price over the phone, that's usually where we lose them, because some of these people only care about price and that they're not going to be our client. Or maybe they would be our clients, but the time frames don't align and we can't do that. But when you know specifically who your clientele is, I mean, like laser focused. I work for busy professionals who make over $250,000 a year. They're married. The wife stays at home with their kids. They have 2.5 kids. You know, they vacation 3 times a year. They have one vacation home in the South. The husband likes to play golf. The wife is into whatever, selling purses and stuff, because that's her thing. She does part-time to keep busy. Like, when you can get laser specific on that, on your demographic, now you can start crafting all of your marketing and all of your experience around that, right? So because those types of people expect a certain type of experience, and no longer do I have to have this one size fits all experience for 100,000 different potential customers and personality traits. I only have to cater it to 5% of the population or 2% of the population. And when you only have to cater to those 2%, you can get laser specific with your marketing. Even with the coaching that I do, most of the coaching is going to be better served for like remodeling contractors, landscaping contractors, general contractors, people that do larger projects is going to be better served. That being said, I've had and do have electricians and heating and air guys and painters and people that handyman, people that do different things that can still benefit from it. But I'm not targeting those people. So if they get into the lead funnel and I have a conversation, I'll tell them, this may not be the best fit for you. There's still going to be some benefit for you, but it may not be the best fit based on what I'm going after. And then they can decide if they want to join or not. But it's still getting more laser focused. And even honestly, just telling you right here live is that I need to niche it down even more. I really need to niche it down to even more of a specific demographic to make it easier for myself and for my marketing efforts. And so when you know who your client is, it makes it very easy to create a brand promise. I shared this story on the podcast too. So if you listen to the podcast, you're going to hear it again. By the way, if you're still with me, if this is making sense, drop a 5 in the chat. If this all is making sense, drop a 5. If it's not making any sense, or if it's just like over your head, you can't figure it out, drop a 6 in the chat. That way I'll know maybe I need to circle back on something. Okay, got lots of fives, got some good stuff. Thanks, Philip. So the what I want to share was, and I shared on the podcast, is my wife went to a coffee shop, and I'm using coffee shops a lot because there's just some well known brands, but I joked on the podcast too that we're not really like coffee snobs. Like we're not. We got to have specific coffee and all that stuff. Oh, by the way, this is a great time to plug to, to plug some coffee. So, if you guys didn't know it, I actually have partnered up with RPG Coffee. This was just on the. I didn't plan on doing this. I just thought of it. But RPG Coffee, it's a pretty phenomenal company. And if you're interested, let me know. I'll throw some links in the chat. They got these cool little on the go sticks, and you can just throw them in hot or cold water. But anyways, they got some cool stuff. So my wife went to this local. It's a local coffee shop, coffee and donut shop, and they started here where I'm at. And now they're franchising across the country. I'm not going to say the name of them because I don't. This may be a one-off experience, but she went in there. My wife likes to drink Americanos. That's her favorite drink. She goes to Starbucks. She gets a decaf Americano, and she adds vanilla creamer or vanilla flavor syrup to it, and all this stuff. And here's a trick, by the way. Totally off topic, guys. Totally off topic. I don't know where my cell phone went. Oh, it's on here. On my phone. This is just a bonus tip for you guys that are married. This is a freebie. So on my phone, I don't know if you can see this or not. You may not be able to see it. I'm going to cover this bottom because it's got some personal stuff. You probably can't read it, but you can see the text. I put on my phone on a note all of my wife's favorite stuff. So I have her Starbucks order. I have her order at church because we do have a coffee shop at our church. I have her Subway sandwich order. I have her Zaxby's. I have her personal information. Like everything that I need to know is on my phone because I'm not going to remember that shit. So that's just that's a bonus tip for being a good husband and for your kids is like put it on your phone so you don't forget. Back to the coffee story. I'm not a connoisseur, Josh. You would think that about much as I talk about coffee, I'm not a connoisseur. I don't even know the different types of coffee. I couldn't even really tell you what's good coffee, what's not good coffee. Just I like it with lots of sugar and cream in it. So I'm like most connoisseurs would probably shun me. So, anyways, so she goes to this place to get her favorite drink, her Americano, and the lady at the checkout says, she says, I want to get Americano and can I add some vanilla syrup? And the lady says, well, we can't do that. And she said, what do you mean? She's like, well, we can't put sugar or syrup, vanilla syrup in there because it'll ruin the roast of the coffee. Now, my wife is not like a snob. I tease her and I say, you're a coffee snob, but she's not. And there was nobody in line. Like she was just curious. Like she didn't understand. It's the first time she's ever heard this. She's bought this same drink at Starbucks. Remember this kind of brand promise here. And she's gone to other local coffee shops in different cities and have gotten the same drink. She's ordered the same drink at multiple places. They taste a little bit different, but it's close. And this lady says, we can't do that because it'll ruin the roast. And so she says, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? And she says, well, she was talking about different drinks. Some have water, some have milk. If you do this and that, it ruins it. Like she's explaining the process of how it ruins it. And my wife's like, well, I see that, but it just seems like it's not, that big a deal. Is it possible to get the syrup in a cup on the side and then I'll just add it to the drink myself? And the lady kind of rolled her eyes and was like, I guess we could do that. And so my wife's like, I just don't understand, and again, not trying to be difficult, like genuinely trying to understand because maybe she needs to change her ways or something. And the lady's like, we just can't do that. We just can't do it. And so she left. My wife left. So they missed out on $8 because she was going to buy a donut and coffee. It's expensive crap. The donuts are like $3 a piece, but they're really good, like phenomenally good. And anyways, So they missed out. And we're like, and she was telling me, and I'm like, that's just dumb. Like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And is it really company policy, or is it just this barista was like on a power trip, you know, whatever? And a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, is actually in the process right now of opening another coffee shop for this brand, this franchise. He's opening a franchise of this exact coffee shop. And we asked him, is this actually company policy? And he said, yes, it is company policy. But I think I can probably change it for my location. We have some freedoms. And I just thought, that's how is that a company policy? If somebody wants to put syrup in a if they want to quote ruin their own coffee, who cares? You know what I mean? If your customer wants to do something to their bathroom, like after you're done, that's their bathroom. Now, if they're wanting you to do something to your project that is against code or is going to cause problems later on that you know for sure, that's maybe a different story. If it's a safety problem, that could be a different story. And you want to make sure that they're not breaking those. But if someone's like, I want pink tile in my shower, and you say that's probably not a good idea for resale value, and I don't care, that's what I want, then give them what they want, right? But even saying all that, if that coffee shop, if they completely understand their customer avatar, excuse me, 1 second. I'm alive. You don't have to call the police. If that coffee shop understands their avatar and their avatar wants their coffee to be perfect. Now my camera's out of focus. If their customers really want their coffee to be perfect, and that's who they cater to, then in that scenario, my wife could have been the exception. So in other words, if that never happens, and this is like the first time it's ever happened, then that's fine. Like that's their business and that's who they go after. So maybe my wife is not the ideal customer. But if that's not the case, and you just have a rogue barista who thinks she knows better, or maybe it was like, this is our policy, but really we could change it if the customer wants. It's like, this is just kind of like, this is our rule, but not, we're going to die on that. And the barista doesn't understand that difference, then that's bad for business. And so it's Robert. And so it's important to train your people to like also give them leeway, but understand, like, don't be crazy, like give them lateral limits. Going back to the military again, when you go to the range has a left and a right lateral limit, and they basically say, like, these are your limits, don't shoot past it. If this is my left, your right lateral limit, you don't want to shoot past it. You want to stay within that limit. So give your employees and your staff the freedom of however much freedom you want them to have, but don't go past that. This is all just talking about the brand promise, and that, what does your brand say, right? So as we're about to wrap up here, we got a few more minutes left. Throw any questions that you guys have in the chat about this, and I'll be happy to clarify or answer that. Sorry for the coughing here. I'm still trying to get over. I got this lingering head cold, and the drainage is still coming. So, Josh Kate said, "How did you communicate your brand promise to your target audience? Through your messaging, marketing, and customer service efforts?" Well, most of it's through your website. Your website is the portal into your business. The Google is the kind of like the window, if you will. Your Google listing is super important, and your website's important, and any social media that you put out is important. When McDonald's first started, some of their franchises were selling burritos. They became what we know today when they took control of their offering. Yeah. Well, by the way, that movie, Robert Kraft, what was the name of that movie, Robert? Or yeah, Robert, do you remember the name of the McDonald's movie? It wasn't McDonald's. It was something else. Um, I can't remember. It's a really good movie to watch. Robert Kraft screwed the McDonald's brothers over. I mean, like totally screwed them. But he was the one that pioneered, the franchising and how to systematize their business. The founder, whoever that is, yes, the founder is a great movie. Highly recommend watching it. I can't think of the main actor's name. Um, it's um, it's on the tip of my tongue. He played Batman, one of the original Batman. Michael Keaton. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, the founder and Michael Keaton. It's a really good movie to watch to understand how they did that, how they franchised their business. Philip says best way to train employees on brand promise, customer service mindset. Any books, videos is something I want to focus on. Believe it or not, this is why a lot of companies, and this really applies more to like larger companies and corporations, but the reason why companies put their vision statement and their mission statement and their motto and stuff up on the walls and their core values and all that is because that's important. And so you have to actually reiterate that over and over and over again. Your employees should know, and I don't mean verbatim, although it's a bonus, but they should know like what your mission is. They should know what your vision is for the company. They should know what's important to the company, what the values and morals that you stand by. Robert Molinay, who's on this call, he just launched a program for like CEOs and really more along this. What I'm talking about is like creating your core values and your vision and all that. And so you might want to reach out, Philip. You may want to reach out to Robert too, and just see if he's got some stuff. He may have some resources for you along that part of it, like the core and the mission. But you want everybody to be on the same mission, and it's just you have to ingrain it in their brain. So post it on the walls. Talk about it in your weekly meetings. Like it would not be a bad thing if you have a vision statement for your company or a mission statement. It would not be a bad thing to read that mission statement before every single meeting. I mean, unless it's every single day, but at least once a week, read that. Hey guys, this is our mission. This is why we're doing this. This is what we're here for. This is our vision. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Because people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Everybody does. And so if you give someone that foundation that where they can come in and be a part of it, then they will adapt that as part of their own identity and live towards that. This is why it's possible this is why you don't want to hire the wrong people. If you hire people for skill and not for character, they can come in and ruin your business because they don't align with your core values. So, and back to Josh on that, how you communicate it. There's lots of ways you can communicate it. I mean, you can actually say it in your marketing. Like, this is our promise to you. Like literally say that. Our promise to you is that you will, get this kind of experience. Blah 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 blah. But also, I mean, Josh, not to pick on you, but you got to have a website, brother. That's where a lot of that stuff comes from. If you get referrals from somebody, the referral is probably not going to like give you indicator of the brand promise. They're not going to say, "Oh yeah, I recommend Brad and his company because their brand promise is this." That doesn't happen. It's more of a collective output, a collective feeling, if you will, about your business based on multiple things that you do: your website, your Google listing, your vehicle wraps, your uniforms, your Facebook posts, everything has to collectively align. So I don't see any other questions coming in on that, so I'm going to end it there. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and if you have any questions, if you're watching the replay on this, remember to throw in replay in the chat, and if you have any other questions, then drop them in the chat, and I'll come back and answer those later on for you. Otherwise, make sure you go listen to the podcast that dropped today. It will go along with this and kind of make some sense. And then we'll do it again next week on a new topic. So appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Hope you have a great rest of your day and week, and talk soon. Thanks, guys.